yi nga xamante ne ñoom ñoo nekk ci biir ndox mi sellal ndox mi ba waral mu soppi li nga xamante ne moom la ndox mi di saf mu soppi cafin gi def ko ndox mu sell te óor CTO block carbon filter bii nag du yem rek ci segg ndox mi sellal ko ba mu sell waaye nag daf koy yokk ay ngéneel yi nga xamante ne ni day baax ci wérgu yaramu doomu aadama bi dëgëral waaye tamit yàggal lool sa yuur wi am nañ tamit 12-inch filter set of 3 boobu it liggéey bu nu mel lay def ñetti filter yépp benn bu ne ak lu muy liggéey am nañ 10-inch post carbon 10-inch coconut carbon 75 GPD pure one membrane bi amal nañ leen bépp xeetu water tank tàmbalee ko ci 500 litres 5000 ba ci 1000 litres ak plumbing fittings kon nag mbokk yi bu ngeen buggee naan ndex yu sell te wóor seeti leen one stop water solution limited suñu makkaan bu mag baa nga foofa ca Sukuta highway Mariama Kunda Johnson wala nga call ñu ci 505 5691 796 8272 one stop water solution limited ndox mu set mooy yàggal dunu ni doon.
You're watching QTV this morning, and I am Jennifer Sonko, joined by my amazing co-host Ibrahim Abalde.
Yes, good morning. It's good to be back here again.
Nala mere so acknowledge te dara.
On another edition.
Bahna da.
Sa musor bi bahna.
Yow la don har nga ñaka ma was ma musor bi
bahna.
Yow man suma musor tok na de.
Musor bi bahna.
Wa.
Dress bi bahna.
Yepa ba.
Yepa ba. Li musori diriyanke la. Wow, you remind me of those diriyankes.
Dedet kany.
Wow, you know
Program Paradise Foundation bi lajal bajen.
You know who diriyanke is. You know who diriyanke is.
Ñane diriyanke.
Diriyanke mooy sanikati xaalis yooyu noonu si xewi.
Te man duma may géwél. Man duma may géwél man.
Ah fekk géwél woyut la. Jeena ba. Dafa am yeena géwél suñ la woyee foog nga saani.
Foog ñu saani de. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, once again, here to have an amazing conversation, here to accompany you, to have an exciting, fun and entertaining morning. And as usual, we have the African proverb, we have the newspaper review. Our guest is already here. Esa Njai, our guest, Esa Njai is here.
This time not so.
Yes, Esa Njai is here to actually help us analyze some of the stories that we have on the papers. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. And on Community Watch today, we'll be taking a look at how the UNDP donates pedal bike to the Gambia Police Force to enhance community policing. And we'll be joined by Lamin Baji, head of community policing. I know community policing, you know, this is an opportunity to actually go further than just the distribution of bikes, but just to talk about how effective community policing is in the Gambia. You know, when community policing exists, then you would see that citizens have more confidence around their neighborhoods and all of that. Interesting conversation ahead. Looking forward to it. And don't forget, One Stop Water Solution for all your water dispensers, tanks, sediment filters. Head right on to One Stop Water Solution for anything that you need to get to purify your water. Now let's head on to my favorite part of the program, which is the African proverb.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Jenaba. The African proverb reads, if you make friend with the boatman, in the dry season, you will be the first to cross when the rain comes and the tide is high.
Okay. If you make friends with the boatman in the dry season, you'll be the first to cross when the rains come and the tide is high. Direct?
It's telling you to prepare
Direct.
for tomorrow.
Is it?
Yes. It's telling you to lay your plans in case of emergency. It's telling you to make peace with your future. You know, it's telling you to prepare for tomorrow.
That's not what it's telling me.
Yes, to me, that's what it's telling me.
Well, that's it?
That's the angle
so
that I'm
me,
saying it.
Let's debate. Floor is open. So for me, it's giving me that feeling of loyalty, being a loyal person. That's what it's telling me. That's what comes to my mind. It's telling me that as an individual, you have to be loyal. Because it is showing you that if you make friends with the boatman in the dry season, the boatman during the dry season, when probably there's no water, there's not much activity. You know what I mean? For this boatman. But when the rains come and the tide is high, the boatman has a boat. You've been there before. You've been there when the boatman did not have something to offer you. Now that the boatman, the rains are there and the tides are high, you can simply jump on it and
Okay.
Go.
Let's take it this way.
Okay.
You might be a friend to the boatman, but you might not be loyal to the boatman too.
That is why
you can be a friend while you are not loyal.
Yes, but in this context, Mota Munela, when you are friends with the boatman, why friends in a normal circumstance, they are supposed to be loyal. That is the definition of friendship. If you're a friend to a person, loyal, you're no friend.
Good.
But you're not a friend when you're not really loyal.
But you can portray to be a friend.
Then you're not a
while
friend.
You are not loyal.
Why don't friend?
Why deep inside, man ak yow duñ ben.
Why
yow yaa ngi portray ne mag yow ben lañ.
But Esa, what is your definition of friendship?
That's subjective if you tell me that anyone that is not loyal is not a friend. What we expect is that friends should be loyal to each other.
It goes together.
Yeah, they should be loyal to each other. But whether if you're not loyal to somebody, you're not a friend, well, that's another conversation.
For me, you're not a friend because going by friendship, what friendship really means.
It should loyalty should define
it's
it.
At the center.
Loyalty should define it. But then with this proverb,
but Esa, I think we'll take it from you and you'll get fixed shortly. So, but I do not agree.
Maybe I know I will need the boatman at the end of the rainy the dry season, and I portray that look, I'm his friend. While deep inside, I'm looking for my interest.
Why? Because
friendship, there can be interest-based friendship
that
as
is
well.
true. Why lolu do friendship sim man. Understand nga? Man dama am suma definition of friendship la wax de. Loyalty. Su fa ko surround te rek lolu do friendship. Maybe it can be called another name.
It can be called interest.
Something else, but
it
it's
can
not
be called
friendship.
interest because in this sense, da nga gis ne kini mung la won ne you know mom dafa make friend ak boatman in case dry season bi je.
Not necessarily.
Yes,
Esa, you can be back. Esa, the proverb says, if you make friends with the boatman in the dry season, you will be the first to cross when the rains come and the tide is high.
I think at some point you're both saying the same thing. Because which I agree with you, it's about preparing for the future. Because this is a situation that you are in today and you don't know what comes tomorrow. It's about preparing for the future. But also at the same time being loyal because you are there today. So tomorrow when you need that person, he will also be there for you. So I think that is what it means. It means that you have to be there for someone today, for the person to be there for you tomorrow. Just what we say in Mandinka, so meaning we have to be there for each other. But it's also about preparing for the future because you know exactly this will happen tomorrow. So what do I need tomorrow? I mean, I need to be friends with someone
you know
who can
why
be there
I don't
for
agree with the both of you for the first analysis of it. When you're friends with somebody, you're not friends with somebody thinking what the person can do for you in future.
But this is what the proverb is saying.
No,
proverb below.
But Geneva, human beings are interest beings. I mean, we are driven by interest. Whatever we are going into, whether we say it or not, it's about interest. It's about interest.
Absolutely.
The reason why I'm going to friendship with you is about interest because I feel that, I mean, you can offer something, I can offer something. Our friendship can be mutual.
But so, sometimes, Ibrahim, I know you have a good heart. I know you have a good heart. Sometimes you might be friends with people. All the time when you're friends with somebody, you look for something.
No, but it's something, even if it is respect. That respect is something, it's interest that you are looking for.
That is, but...
Yeah. It depends on your definition of interest.
Well,
it depends on the context of the
definition.
There are people that you befriend. Why fake a nekut si dara. But dama ko like suma friend dama ko buga jàpp friend waaye xam nga ne kii du la mun a defal dara.
No. The dara there, don't say du la mun a defal dara. At the end of the day, you go into friendship with someone because you feel like this person will give me that respect that I deserve.
Comfort me.
Yeah, so no matter what, you must have interest in it. You must have interest. It depends on the context of the interest. Okay, whether it's material interest, whether it's something else, or position interest, or status interest, or whether it's respect that you are looking for. But you're looking for something in a friendship, and that something that you can looking for is the interest there.
waaw loolu dëgg la waaye lu ma nekk di wax mooy waruñoo séentu.
This is very broad, huh?
It's broad waaye comme li ma wax mooy waruñoo stay place pour xool nit ki lan la mën a indil ëllëg man personally noonu laa ko gisee te if nit si loyalité si nit man loolu nekkul xaritoo.
I think.
waaye
te loyal minute loyal minute kooku nekkal si lu bon nga jàppale ko de. loyal minute kooku nekkal si lu bon xam nga loyal bi lu miin yow nga stand by individual ba si certain times like dry season bu ñoo wax ni su ko defee rainy season bi su ko mee kooku dina ne jeena ba nekkaloon na ma fa de o Ibrahima mu fa woon de I have to carry Ibrahima along because gis nga sometimes soo dee def dara nga dem ak that mindset ne dafa am sa interest bu fa nekka it shows te du dee mujjee façon xaritoo yooyu du dee mujjee.
waaw xanaa gisuloo
selfish based.
exactly
waaye at some point tey mun na am jeena ba mun na maa taxawal feena you know ba su nekkee situation boobu romb na jeena ba mu nit ma at a particular place nekkuma fa xanaa doo dee gis loolu daf dee am da ngaa gis ku la ne kii ak lu ma ko defal yëpp ak lu ma ko
xam nga lu tax bu mu ko doon def dafa séntu leneen
waaw so these are things that
moo tax mu ngay wax ne you have to be there both difficult times and also
dafa war a balance but anyway it's a two-way thing tamit it's a two-way thing
but I agree with both of you I think you're talking about
waaye boot man bi su la jaalale
waaw
nga cross taxaw fële nga ne ma ne moom ak bootam nañ dem fële
am na fi de it's happening de te politicians yi ako ñoo ñeme loolu
waaw loolu bari na fi bari na fa de moo tax ñu ngi woon gaay ne nañ moytu
daal so we will go for a short commercial break now and when we come back we'll take a look at the newspapers. We have The Voice, we have Forea as well as The Point. We'll be right back.
QCell's Q Prayer and Q Ramadan service reminds you of your 5 daily prayer times and the start and end times for your fast. Simply send prayer to 331 to be reminded of the 5 daily prayer times. Send Ramadan or fast to 332 to be notified of the start and iftar time of fasting on a daily basis. QCell wishes you all a blessed Ramadan. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back from that break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV This Morning. And now we delve right onto the newspaper review. This is The Point. We have that IMF Gambia authorities discuss fourth review of Gambia's economic program. And also President Adama Barrow preaches unity ahead of swearing in of new National Assembly members. And also the Drug Law Enforcement Agency Deputy Boss Ibrahim Anyim Drame to be banned for 10 years. Interesting. Yes, so I think that is all here.
Yes, this is the Foria. April 10-11 victims renew their demands for justice, and of course President advised against divisive politics, hate speech. Gambia participates report on voters intimidation and harassment. IEC tasked to investigate the dropping out of candidates during and after nomination. And the editorial, the African Union now has the opportunity to guide the world. Yes.
Wow, that's big. So here we have Serekunda West MP promises to table law that will stabilize price of commodities. And also Duduja explains cause of APRC candidates defeat in Fonyi. And Victim Center challenge government on delaying justice for Jammeh victims. And also government adopts measures to mitigate the effects of economic uncertainties. And also President Barrow urges Gambians to desist from divisive politics. So that is all we have. So Duduja here is trying to explain that the reason why they actually were defeated in Fonyi. And he's trying to depend on the Casamas conflict, saying that it is because of, part of the reasons is because of that, the internally displaced around that area. And some of these candidates were renowned, and further saying that really the no to alliance is a huge challenge for them, accepting that it has affected the structure of the party. But do you think really the Casamas conflict played a role when it comes to the Fonyi areas saying no to APRC as a party and joining the No to Alliance there?
Yeah, I think we cannot negate the fact that the crisis in Casamas vis-a-vis Fonyi really contributed to the outcome of the parliamentary elections in of all the 5 constituencies in Fonyi. But also it shows that Yaya Jammeh still has influence. He still remains relevant in Fonyi politics. Because if you look at the presidential election in December, I think GDC was able to secure 2 seats in Fonyi. It shows that Jammeh still has influence over those APRC members or supporters in Fonyi. Especially coming to the parliamentary election, we saw that after the defeat of, after the victory of President Barrow, the APRC, claimed credit or took credit of the victory, and obviously they were trying to portray to Gambians that they have more supporters than the non-alliance movement, and that is why they were able to secure victory for President Barrow. Especially, I think 1 or 2 constituencies in Fonyi, 2 or 3 constituencies Barrow was able to win there. But then coming to this parliamentary election, I think a lot has changed. The dynamics have changed. Looking at the Fonyi conflict, it seems like the government under Barrow did not do much to address the problem. But also, even their NAMs, their parliamentarians, especially for Fonyi councillor, that is Musa Amulnyasi, all what they saw was that these parliamentarians were trying to please President Barrow, not necessarily responding to their needs as
because according to Duduja here, he's trying to explain that many people did not vote because it has to do with maybe the people around that area not having confidence in the government, considering the issue according to him here. So
those who voted actually voted for the No Alliance movement. So that's why I said even this parliamentary election, if you look at it, I think the poor voter turnout really affected some candidates because it's about the supporters of candidates that went out in their large numbers that were able to win. Today, if you're talking about you have 100 voters and he also has 100, at the end of the day, 75 came out to vote, your supporters. And for him, 30 came out to vote. Obviously, it is clear that you will emerge a winner. So that was what happened in this parliamentary election, and Fonyi was not an exception to this. And it seems like the people of Fonyi were so united when it comes to the Casamas conflict, because they feel the pain of the whole thing. We have seen internally displaced people. People had to run away from their communities in Fonyi to an extent that the IEC was even saying that they will have to put in modalities to see how best those people can still vote. Because at the end of the day, if the security in those communities are not guaranteed, they will have to see how best they can, put polling stations or polling booths in some communities that are safer for these people to vote. But I think at the end of the day, there was security and level of stability, so the IEC was able to conduct elections in those communities. But the people took it as a responsibility, as a sacred duty, to say we must flush out these parliamentarians and bring in new people, but also to manifest to Gambians that they still remain loyal to Yaya Jammeh. Because for me, after December election, I thought Jammeh was irrelevant in Gambian politics. But these things, the parliamentary election, I think, specifically in Fonyi, has changed the dynamics. And the No Alliance movement, I think if there is any party or camp in this election that emerged victorious, is the No Alliance movement. Because 2016 presidential election, Jammeh won all the 5 constituencies, not a surprise. 2017 parliamentary election, still APRC won. Then 2021 presidential election, it was divided. But 2022 parliamentary election, the No Alliance movement took control of Fonyi. So it shows that it is the Yaya Jammeh APRC that remains relevant in Fonyi and not the Fabakary Tombonjata.
Now, what do you think will be the fate of the APRC now? As we all know, the No Alliance group, I mean, it's from APRC. Nobody can deny that. Considering the fact that now most of these parliamentarians are from the No Alliance. So what do you think it's the fate of the APRC? Do you think they still have that power?
I think this is very bad for the future of the APRC. I've said this prior to the election, the parliamentary election. I cannot just imagine if you claim APRC, the Tombonjata-led faction, if you claim to be more relevant, more powerful than the No Alliance movement, you're able to put up only 7 candidates. And the No Alliance movement was able to put up 14 candidates, I think.
But you
across the
also
entire-
have to remember that there's an alliance between the NPP
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
APRC.
saying. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, APRC was a ruling party. It just left power 5 years ago.
Right.
So I cannot imagine no type of alliance, negotiation or discussion should allow APRC to put up only 7 candidates. That's very small, and they knew very well that Fonyi was going to be difficult for them. So the only 2 places that they were relying on were Josuang and Bundunkakunda, which they were able to win. But then if you look at even Bundunkakunda, I don't think it was the influence of the APRC. I think it was the candidate, the
For
personality
Bundu,
of the candidate.
yes.
That is
Suleiman
Suleiman
Jammeh.
Jammeh. A lot of people appreciated
Yeah,
him.
he does a lot of community
Exactly. So it's not
engagement.
necessarily the influence of APRC in Bundunkakunda, but the personality of the candidate. That is why I said this election, a lot of candidates lost. Some parties were able to lose in some constituencies because of the personality. The caliber of candidates that they put up really contributed. So I think this is bad for the future of it because parties survive in parliament. Like I've always said, when it comes to presidential election, parties can go into alliance. But parliamentary elections, parties survive in parliament. If you don't have any seat in parliament, then you become irrelevant. That is why NRP will still remain relevant in Gambian politics because they have seats in parliament. GDC will be irrelevant.
Yeah, CA there.
Exactly. But
GMC.
CA, you can understand, they're just starting.
Yes.
Okay, GMC has always remained irrelevant in Gambian politics because they have no seat in parliament.
Forever.
Exactly.
So ever relevant.
GP, DP, the same.
Well,
so APRC, this would
But
really,
my party
really affect.
makes a lot of noise, when it
It's
comes
not about
to issues.
noise. It's not
It's
about
Well, I'm
noise.
just saying, I know it is not, but
I think-
he engages in conversations,
But it's the
related to
party. It's the
national-
party we're talking
Yeah,
about.
the
It's
main
the party we're
party,
talking about.
not
So
about the
if you look at the
individual.
APRC, this is bad for the future of the party. At the end of the day, what can you make in parliament? What can you say in parliament? You don't have a voice in parliament. So even the non-alliance movement today, if the non-alliance movement should transform itself into a political party with a different name, they are more relevant in parliament, in
In a
Gambian
way,
politics than
in a way.
the Fabakary Tombo
Yes,
Jabane.
Yes,
so we saw a press release coming from CSOs supporting women, actually talking about how they feel the 5 nominated members should reflect some of the activities that they are doing. We saw a list. We cannot confirm. We cannot confirm in any way that particular list is the 5 nominated members for the National Assembly, which is constitutionally mandated on the side of the president. But let's just say we do not know who these people are because the confirmation from State House, we don't have it yet. It's not out, official list. But what are you looking forward to when it comes to those 5 nominated members?
Like you said, the unconfirmed list. We all saw it last night.
Yes.
I saw a lot of media houses carried it, credible media houses, I will say, carried it to say these are the 5 that were nominated. But what we expect the president to do is to get the vulnerable and minority groups specifically. And when we say minority, it includes, of course, vulnerable groups such as women, the physically challenged, and that is the differently able people, but also young people to be represented. But even the Christian community could be represented because this parliament, I think, a few Christians contested, but none of them won. So I think this is an opportunity for the president to see how he can balance parliament, bring in, at least 1 or 2 Christians to be part of parliament, but then also the women, obviously. If you look at this parliamentary election, 19 women contested out of 251, which is very bad. Although figures have increased compared to previous elections. In the history of the Gambia, this is the first time we said we're having 19 candidates contesting for parliamentary election. By figures, it's an improvement, but looking at time and space, it is not an impressive one. So among those 19, only 3 are elected, just like the last parliamentary election. 2017, 3 were elected. That is Banjul South, Talinding, and Fonyi, one of the constituencies.
nominated.
This time, too, is one of the constituencies in Fonyi. And by the way, bravo to Fonyi. It seems like they've always produced female parliamentarians. So, and then we have Tumanjai, Banjul South, Mentin, and I think Sanementeren constituency. These are the 3. And by the way, too, congratulations to the female parliamentarian in Sanementeren because he pulled the highest number of margin across all the 53 constituencies. So
Esa, Mr. Njai, sorry.
It's all right.
Yes, let's assume that list is true. What's your take on that?
it's a bad one because it shows that the president is only interested in pushing his political agenda in parliament, not necessarily to address the disparity and the inequality we have, especially when it comes to gender, when it also comes to vulnerable groups. How do we address the needs of these people? Young people, of course, we have always said that they remain the greatest chunk of the population of the country are young people. How do you make sure that you get parliament? Because we have only few young people that are elected in the parliament. Looking at the age definition of young people in this country,
15 to 25.
I think I know of only Kiang West. I don't know the other candidates, but by age, I know Kiang West, who is my age mate, who is elected in parliament. The rest probably are more than 35, and they will not be considered youth. So the president must elect people or nominate people that will, someone who will represent the young people. But then also women. We need more women. Why
but
can't you have 3?
according to the unconfirmed list,
yeah,
there are 2 women.
That's what I'm saying. Why can't you have 3 women?
Okay.
Why can't you have 3 women? One of them could be a Christian. One of them could be a differently able person. So I think we need more women. In fact, it could be 4 women and 1 man. The speaker could be a woman. The deputy speaker could be a man. And then, you have other nominated members as 1 male and 1 female. So I think women should dominate when it comes to this nomination of 5 parliamentarians.
Well, to me, I think it would be very difficult because certain decisions are there. For the president to take them, he needs to sit with his people.
With people?
His people.
The politicians.
Yes, we've had the president said on other interviews that, certain decisions, he doesn't take them on his own. He have to consult people.
He has to meet his technicians.
But I don't think that decision is difficult.
What about if he wants to nominate these people and his group doesn't allow him to?
He's the president. The final decision lies in his hand. That is what we call leadership.
Exactly.
You have to take certain decisions. If you tell me that the president will find it difficult to make that decision, then I think I will say Gambians, especially those politicians surrounding the president, don't have faith in women in this country. How many women are in this country that are capable of doing that job? So you are telling me that if the president is not able to make that decision.
But we all know they don't have faith in women. We know that.
Which is bad. We
talked about it here all the time.
So where's the women empowerment that they talk about all the time? Where's the women empowerment? They just want women to be behind, to be clapping, when it comes to elections, and that's it. But they are not good. And that is why, in fact, when the constitutional amendment bill, which sought to promote or enhance women participation in politics in the Gambia, was told in Parliament, it was a big disappointment that this private member bill was taken, of course, by Banjul South MP, but it suffered a setback in Parliament. So it shows that it seems like Gambians are not ready for effective women participation in politics.
So
it's really bad for our democracy.
Yeah, so moving on, the Victim Center challenged government on delaying justice for Jammeh. The victims have been, making a lot of noise, further saying that the approaches that the TRRC is using, they're not happy about, it's not participatory. They do not actually involve them in consultative meetings to get information, but they rather see some of these developments from the media. And now they're saying that, the justice is being delayed. So what is your take on this whole process?
Well, I think when you look at the TRRC, the victims are the most important here because they suffered the brutalities of the Jammeh 22 years. And what we expect is that there should be that high level of collaboration between the victims and the TRRC. But when it comes to the issue of justice, in the case of Yahya Jammeh, I think it is also beyond the TRRC. Obviously, the TRRC has recommended Yahya Jammeh's prosecution, but that is now at the level of the government. Although we know when we say, justice in the case of Yahya Jammeh, it's not only Jammeh, but also people that enable him. But specifically in the case of Jammeh, it's beyond the TRRC. It is now left for the government to come up with a white paper within the stipulated period given, but then also it might be even beyond the government, because at the end of the day, how will you try Yahya Jammeh? Are you going to try him in the Gambia? Looking at putting into consideration probably security reasons, what type of justice system are you going to put in place? Maybe it's going to be how do you call it, a special court set up specifically to deal with his case, because his alleged crimes are of international character, and therefore it cannot be dealt with just at the level of the Gambia, but it's beyond the Gambia. So I think the TRRC at some point, what we need right now, in order for the victims to have confidence in the TRRC, in the recommendations of the TRRC, there must be that strong collaboration, but also the government must show commitment. But recent happenings, especially when it comes to the marriage, the bromance between the APRC and Barrow, I think have really, victims have lost confidence in the whole process of making sure that justice is delivered to the victims.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate, and we've also seen how the deputy boss of the Drug Law Enforcement Agency is supposed to be banned for 10 years because he was grossly mentioned during the TRRC.
Yeah, I mean, people have said there is selective justice again.
Yes.
In the recommendations of the TRRC, because people like Sana Sabali, for instance, are granted amnesty.
You don't agree with that?
Well, I wouldn't say I don't agree, because I think Sana's case is also very complex here, in the sense that Sana was both a perpetrator but at the same time a victim. And also, if you look at the TRRC Act, I think Section 19, one says that people that are able to collaborate with the TRRC and showing remorse in their testimonies could be granted amnesty. But at the same section also, Section 19, I think, 3 also says that you know, those crimes that are of, you know, how do you call it, crimes against humanity,
right,
alleged crimes that fall within the purview of crimes against humanity, could not be granted, should not be granted amnesty at the end of the day. So these are the two contradictory sections in the TRRC Act. Well, lawyers will have to help us interpret that. I'm not a lawyer, but you know, from a surface, one will say, why will Sana be granted amnesty? But like I said, his issue is so complex. And also, even if the Gambia government says that, well, Sana should not be granted amnesty, he should be punished, justice will be delivered. But how do you punish him if you look at it from the angle of crimes against humanity? That falls within the purview of the ICC. The Gambia government, I'm not sure whether there's any law domestically to prosecute people that allegedly commit crimes against humanity. But if there is no, then it means the case will have to go to the ICC, because it falls within the issue of customary international law and all that. But those are complex areas.
Yeah,
that
they
lawyers will
are.
have to help
They
us
are.
to deal with.
They are. They are. Ibrahim, any interesting headlines there?
All right, let's take a look at
April 10, 11 victims.
Yes, victims renew their demands for justice.
I think, like they always say, the famous mantra, justice delayed is justice denied.
It is.
This has been going on for long now, since 2000. But I think also, looking at the TRRC recommendations, for instance, denying amnesty to Aissatou Sidi, former vice president, is one of the steps to ensure that justice is delivered to these people, because he was you know, number one in the country then, because Jammeh was out of the country. So, you know, she was present when these things happened, and she failed in taking responsibility or taking leadership, making sure that these things were prevented. So I think, in the case of April 10, 11, I think Aissatou Sidi's denial of amnesty is a step towards that. But still, I think that is a lot to be done, because when we say justice, we are not only referring to prosecution, but we're also referring to compensations. And some of these people have lifelong damages, especially when it comes to their health condition. So what do you do to make sure that those things are addressed? I think those are things that the government really need to look into.
Yes, the president has been hailed for his speech that he gave immediately after the National Assembly elections. Did you go through with? You know, the president preaches unity ahead of the swearing in of the new National Assembly members.
Yeah, I read this speech. I did not find much of interest, because I mean, the president made mention of something which is very good, to say, let us desist from divisive politics and hate speech. But with due respect, President Barrow started this whole divisive politics in this country.
How?
Ahead of the December election. These are politicians. They play their cards and see which one works for them. Inviting different ethnic groups to State House and leaving out other ethnic groups is the highest form of divisive politics in the Gambia. Knowing that we came from a dark history, 22 years of dictatorship, where ethnic politics has been promoted by the regime towards the latter part. When he came as a transitional president, he's supposed to be a unifier, a unifying figure in the country. Ahead of the 2021 presidential election, Barrow should not be seen engaging any form of divisive politics by inviting other ethnic groups and leaving out other ethnic groups. But that was not the end. We also saw when it comes to hate speech, it was on President Barrow's platform that hate speech were made, even though other political opponents also do it. But in his presence as president, these things were made. We have had Hamad Bah made such speech. But we have also had, just few days before election, Dembo by force made hate speech, and President Barrow was seated. So Barrow is not in any moral position right now to tell us that Gambians should desist from divisive politics and also hate speech. because he spearheaded this thing ahead of the election because
yeah,
he knew it was going to work in his favor.
Barrow doing it.
I'm not saying it's justifiable.
Yes, it's not justifiable
it's not justifiable.
That as head of state he should not come and you know, mention some of these things.
He should address this to say
he should.
There shouldn't be divisive politics
Right,
or hate speech,
right.
but he must hold himself responsible, accountable for starting it. Because if you start it as the president, well, everybody can see it to be normal.
Yeah, but it's been there.
It's been there, I know.
It's been there.
And I don't think, in fact, when it comes to divisive politics and hate speech, I don't think this parliamentary election witnessed that. There was not much of hate speech in this parliamentary election because the campaign coincided with Ramadan as well. So candidates were more of doing house-to-house campaign instead of holding big rallies here and there. So there was not much of hate speech and divisive politics. And even the ethnic card was not played this time around. We saw how, you know, the election went in favor of some opposition parties. And of course, even some independent candidates, how they were able to win. So there was not much of ethnic politics when it comes to the
Fonyi?
I mean, the Fonyi issue, like I told you, Fonyi is different. We know, you know, one ethnic group dominates Fonyi. We know that that's for sure. So there cannot be anything like ethnic politics in Fonyi when it comes to parliamentary election there. So what contributed to the electoral outcome in Fonyi, we all know. Like I said, the Jame influence, also the Casamance conflict, that was what contributed to the electoral
outcome. How about
outcome.
Serekunda West constituency? How do you see the outcome? Madi Cisse actually is re-elected. We had the likes of Nene Freda Gomez. We had the likes of Mrs. Jaita from Doi and all of that.
Mrs. Jaita from UDP.
No.
Yakumba?
No, Yakumba is not Serekunda West constituency.
No, it's Serekunda constituency.
But I'm talking about specifically Serekunda West, where Madi Cisse actually is re-elected.
I must say that I was surprised.
Why is
it was a surprise that Madi won because, I mean, if you look at the way Madi came to this election, in fact, it was so rough. Even the UDP at some point were not, you know, comfortable in putting him up as a candidate because people of Serekunda were somewhere saying that Madi doesn't go to Gente, Madi doesn't go to funeral, Madi doesn't socialize here and there, and the UDP were not comfortable with that. And that was why they wanted to bring in Yakumba there, but later they had to change Yakumba for Serekunda. Now Madi came. But then, so I was surprised how Madi was able to manage with that huge difference. So I think in the case of people like Nene or candidates like Nene, I think at some point it also had to do with the party. Because when it comes to elections in the Gambia, presidential people tend to look at the candidate more than the party. But when it comes to parliamentary election, both are put into consideration. People look at the party, but also they look at the individual. So if you look at the party, CA, it's just starting. It's not that it doesn't have that ground in KM, especially Serekunda West. But also you have to look at, obviously we have to be frank here, is the patriarchal nature of our society. These are ladies. That's why I said 19 of those women that contested, only 3 were able to make it. So Nene could be disadvantaged based on a lot of factors, but not necessarily ethnic, because if you look at Nene's ethnic background, it's not only that, but even religions-wise. Do you understand? So even Yakumba, why do you think Yakumba lost? You know, she's competent. Do you understand? But the gender factor must have contributed to this whole thing.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so thank you so much, Esa, for joining us. It's always good to have you here, you know, being honest, having honest conversations, you know, ethical conversations when it comes to some of these things. It is important because the moment we bring in the ethics and the honesty, then we're able to move as a country. Thank you so much for always willing to join us here. So now we will go for a short break on Community Watch. Unfortunately, I did announce that we'll be joined by Lamin Baji, head of community policing, but unfortunately he's unable to join us here. But Momodu Lamin Choi actually covered this particular story where UNDP donated pedal bike to the Gambia Police Force to enhance community policing. So we'll be joined by Momodu Lamin Choi shortly after the story to tell us, you know, what he saw, how he feels these pedal bikes will be able to help the Gambia Police Force when it comes to community policing. We'll be right back.
Gambia Police Force has the maintenance of law, peace and order as its key mandate. However, it is crucial to recognize that the police are part of and accountable to the community. This realization is indispensable for successful community policing. To enhance community policing, the United Nations Development Programme is supporting the Gambia Police Force with 150 bicycles. Aisha is the UNDP country representative in the Gambia.
We engaged with the police a while ago, especially on community policing. And as I said, it's important to have closeness between the police and the population to strengthen and sustain peace and security. Because without security, you don't have development. And Gambia is striving, although still in transition and many processes overlapping. Gambia has shown very good practices.
Community policing helps for a proactive crime detection, prevention, and management that requires structures, processes, and systems to be in place for responding to community problems. In community policing, the police are required to understand and deliver services that the community wants and is satisfied with based on its security priorities and in accordance with the rule of law. Mamadou Sow, the Assistant Inspector General of Police, thanks the UNDP for its support and outlines the significance of community policing.
There is no 100% security system. There is no security system that is 100% effective. But the one that enjoys the love and respect of its populace is the most effective. And that can only be attained through being accountable, responsive, determined, and coherent towards your service delivery systems.
The UNDP Gambia Police Force Community Policing Strategic Plan document identifies the reluctance of police officers to discard the traditional and reactive methods of policing as a major threat to successful implementation of community policing in the Gambia. Chief Superintendent of Police Lamin Jaite is the officer commanding the community policing unit of the Gambia Police Force.
Today in the Gambia, policing is anchored more on democratic policing. That is what we want to focus our attention on. How can that is what we are rolling, and then it is paying dividends. Democratic policing, and there are principles attached to that. One of the fundamental principles of democratic policing is adherence to the rule of law and respect for human rights, and accountable. Police officers must be seen to be accountable in their dealings with members of the community.
Community policing formally began in the Gambia in 2003. In 2019, the UNDP and the Gambia Police Force initiated a partnership to institutionalize community policing with a strategic implementation plan. These new bikes, provision of more equipment to the police, plus refresher training on community policing provide the opportunity for democratic policing in the Gambia. This will reflect Sir Robert Peel's 9 principles of policing, which states that police are the public and the public are the police. Peel is credited with being the founder of the London Metropolitan Police Force and became known as...
All right, the police are the public and the public is the police. Talking about community policing. Thank you so much for joining us, Mamadou Lamin Choi. You covered this particular story. So as you know, as a citizen, living in a community, obviously we all do, what do you think about this initiative?
It is a very good initiative, and I think it will help the police in ensuring that there is effective community policing in the communities where it will be distributed. So usually for community policing to be effective, mobility is very important because one will need to go through all the, because it is a proactive intervention. It's a proactive effort in a sense that the police wouldn't have to wait in order to access information and then react. Right. But what happens is that the police needs to move within and around the communities to interact with the public and then to know what their problems are, what is happening in order to gather information and then bring solutions to those problems that they're facing. And what will help to ensure that is that there is effective mobilization of resources like this in ensuring that the police really have that mobility to carry on their mandate.
Did they specifically say that it's because of lack of mobility, that's why they're unable to do community policing, and bikes is what they need to be able to do that? Did you further ask that question?
That generally, if you look at the Gambia Police Force, lacks, the resources. Right. It doesn't have the, the adequate resources to carry out community policing effectively. That was not said, but one will, believe that maybe the UNDP realized that there is a gap, there is a problem, or did an assessment to know what the community policing unit of the Gambia Police Force needs in order to carry out its function. and that is why the bikes were donated.
Okay.
Yes.
Don't you think Gambia Police Force, they also have responsibility when it comes to the handling of these things? I mean, these things. Yes. I can remember a few years ago, they were also donated bikes, you know, and that was talk of the town. I can still remember that. But you cannot see all the bikes, and the purpose the bikes were donated for, it's not carried out. It's all the same thing. So what about, did you ask them the sustainability aspect of it?
Yeah, the sustainability aspect, what happens is that the UNDP or donor agencies, institutions like this will give them materials, and whether it is sustainable or not, that is a question that maybe the police will be in the right position to explain about. But you've pointed out the fact that they were given similar resources. Not to my knowledge, but one could have asked where those resources are, where are the bikes, or where are the materials that were given to them to ensure that there is proper community policing. But for me, what is important is that UNDP has donated them the bikes, and now it is a property of the police. And what they have to do is to make sure that these materials are used for the purpose of which they are meant for. And you go to rural areas, transportation, is a problem. You go to, even within the Greater Banjul area. So community policing is all about being proactively responsive to the needs of a community by the police, because the police relies on the information from the community in order to address, the challenges that the communities are facing in terms of security. So these are the priorities maybe, the police will need to, put together to make sure that at least the problems are, addressed.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Mamadou Lamin Choi, for joining us. Looking forward to having another conversation with Lamin Baji, Head of Community Policing, because he can further. Yes, there are certain questions.
They will be in that position to answer most of these questions.
Most of these questions that we are asking. Why Mamadou Lamin Choi, man, waruma muna gina fi taman suma mbuba bi wane omako? Mbuba bi fu mu fi. Ma jog wane ko yen tamit.
Jogal, ma ñoo taxawé ni.
Wa ma taxawé ni.
Taxawal fofu rek.
Wa ma taxaw fi. So gis ngeen ko. Gis ngeen li num oyofé. Ni la mel. So Fighters creation. Fighters mang fa yoka creation de te boko si. Fighters rek la wara doon. So 32411798 32411798 waroon nga maa ñëw gunge si de.
Dox na de. Te musóori diri yanke bi man mooma si njëkkaane.
Waaw nii daal nii la ko gaay defee waaye xam nga luñ ma wax. ñu ne man duma aawo. So waruma taka façon musóor bu mel nii. Waaw loolu lañ ma wax.
Tàmmu naa ko gisee aawo yi de.
Anyway, dafa mel ni nag ñu maa iñaane bëggu ñoo wane suma yére bi. So till we come your way inshallah.
ñu ne nga feesal fële rek.
Waa direct leen ma nag da ngeen maa direct ma xam naka la.
Lii foog ñu wane ko.
Waa mu ngi nii gis nga si kaw ba su suuf.
bu ne yelloo na ndox mu set te ndox mu set dafa bokk ci dunni doomu aadama te biir kat amul seetu waral na lépp lu fay dugg dafa war a doon li nga xamante ne ni lu indil doomu aadama bi loraange ci wàllu wérgu yaram. One Stop Water Solution Limited ñu ngi fii ci biir réew taxaw temm fexe pour gis ne doomu aadama bu ne di nga naan ndox moo xamante ne ni ndox mu sell te wóor la ndax indil nañ leen ay xeetu filtres yi nga xamante ne ni mun ngeen koy jëfandikoo ci seeni pompe yi ci biir réew moo xam boo xool ngay jëfandikoo wala pompe nawek yi ne bépp xeetu filtre bi nga xamante ne ni dina la indil wérgu yaram musal la ci loraange amal nañ leen ko ci biir réew am nañ 10-inch filter set of 3 bii nag ñett lay àndal bu ci ne ak li muy liggéey bokk na ci 5 micron pp sediment filter bii nag mooy segg ndox mi ba mu set génne fa lépp li nga xamante ne ni warta ànd ak ndox moomu bala nga koy jëfandikoo gak granule carbon filter bii nag mooy segg génne lépp lu xeetoog chemical ak organique yi nga xamante ne ñoom ñoo nekk ci biir ndox mi sellal ndox mi ba waral mu soppi li nga xamante ne moom la ndox mi di saf mu soppi cafin gi def ko ndox mu sell te óor CTO block carbon filter bii nag du yem rek ci segg ndox mi sellal ko ba mu sell waaye nag daf koy yokk ay ngéneel yi nga xamante ne ni day baax ci wérgu yaramu doomu aadama bi dëgëral waaye tamit yàggal lool sa yuur wi am nañ tamit 12-inch filter set of 3 boobu it liggéey bu nu mel lay def ñetti filter yépp benn bu ne ak lu muy liggéey am nañ 10-inch post carbon 10-inch coconut carbon 75 GPD pure 1 membrane bi
amal nañ leen bépp xeetu water tank tàmbalee ko ci 500 litres 5000 ba ci 1000 litres ak plumbing fittings.
kon nag mbokk yi bu ngeen buggee naan ndex yu sell te wóor seeti leen One Stop Water Solution Limited suñu makkaan bu mag baa nga foofa ca Sukuta Highway
Mariama Kunda Johnson
wala nga call ñu ci 505 5691 796 8272 One Stop Water Solution Limited ndox mu set mooy yàggal dund.